Department of Natural Resource and Conservation Renewable Resource Grant and Loan Program, often referred to as RRGL. This program was established to enhance renewable resources in the state of Montana, and the projects that it funds must enhance conservation, management, development, or preservation of targeted renewable resources. This grant and loan program is available to public entities, which include cities, towns, counties, conservation districts, water and sewer districts, irrigation districts, joint boards of control, and state agencies. The renewable resources that this funding will provide funds towards is water conservation, water for public use, agricultural use, or other beneficial uses, surface water or groundwater quality, air quality, and waste management. First, we'll cover information about the Renewable Resource Grant Program. An applicant for the grant program must have a preliminary engineering report for the project that shows that the project is financially and technically feasible and that the project does not have significant environmental impacts. The applicant must have a project management plan in place. The grant program is a biannual grant program. Applications are due in May of even-numbered years, and the award for those grants are awarded in May of odd-numbered years. It does take 1 full year for an applicant to find out if it was awarded funds for a project. The maximum grant amount is $125,000. For public entities, there is no match requirement. However, if a public entity is applying on behalf of a private entity, a 25% match will be required by the private entity. The Renewable Resource Loan Program is similar to the grant program but has some differences. The applicant must have a preliminary engineering report that shows that the project is financially and technically feasible. The project cannot have a significant environmental impact, and the applicant must have a project management plan. Applications for the loan program may be submitted at any time. There is no maximum loan amount, but the loan will be limited by the applicant's debt capacity. The loan is backed by a revenue bond, which is a bond that is funded by user rates, or it is backed by a tax-backed bond, which is a bond that sets up a special taxation fund that will then pay the debt of the loan. There are steps that must be completed before applying for this funding. Step 1. A preliminary engineering report must be completed before applying. DNRC planning grants can be used to fund a portion of the PER. Step 2. The PER will have recommended alternatives identified in which the funding can be used. Step 3. Discuss the PER recommended alternatives with the dam safety operator at DNRC, if applicable. Step 4. Talk with your board and vote on applying for funding. Step 5. Procure an engineering firm before applying. And Step 6. Utilize the engineering firm and their knowledge to apply for the grant or loan application. Examples of projects that have utilized both the Renewable Resource Grant Program and the Renewable Resource Loan Program are the Ackley Lake Dam Rehabilitation and the Carter Pond Rehabilitation. The Ackley Lake Dam Rehabilitation is an earthen dam that was constructed in 1938, and after some analysis in 2004, it was determined that the dam did not meet stability requirements. A rehabilitation project was initiated to address the high uplift pressures, improve spillway performance, and to line the aged corrugated metal pipe outlet. The dam owner is the DNRC. It's a public entity. The project cost was $1.6 million, and the sources of funds used on this project were $100,000 from the DNRC RRGL grant and $200,000 from the DNRC RRGL loan program. There was $1.3 million in state funds. These state funds are often only funds that state entities can apply for, so the DNRC is a state entity and was eligible for these funds. The loan was backed by water user rates that were increased in order to cover that debt service. The second project is the Carter Pond Rehabilitation. The Carter Pond is two ponds, the upper and lower pond, that were constructed in 1938. DNRC recommended that the dams either be repaired or breached. And in 2006, it was determined to look for funding to basically rehabilitate and repair the ponds. The total project cost for the Carter Pond rehabilitation is $430,635. The owner is Tom Carter. He is a private entity that partnered with the Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks Division in order to qualify for some of this public entity funding, such as the DNRC RRGL grant and loan. The funding for this project was split up between several entities: $100,000 from the DNRC RRGL grant, $106,000 from the Future Fisheries grant, $25,200 from the U.S. Fish Wildlife Service NRCS program, $75,000 from the North American Wetlands Conservation grant, $85,000 from Ducks Unlimited. They provided engineering for the project, so it was an in-kind donation, and $36,435 from USFWS. That was also in kind. They offered rock sourcing and placement on the project. And the Fergus County Conservation District provided in-kind assistance that consisted of grant writing. Both projects were successfully completed in 2008, and the ponds were completely filled again in 2010. Some frequently asked questions include the ones listed below. The first one: can an RRGL grant or loan be used as cost share for federal grants? And the answer is yes. RRGL grants and loans are considered state funding and therefore can be used as a cost share for federal grants. The second question: do the RRGL grants or loans require a cost share? And the answer is no. DNRC grants do not require a cost share or match. The project is not ranked higher if a match is provided, and however, the largest RRGL grant is only $125,000, and many projects are much larger in cost and require further funding. The third question: the project is going to cost much more than we anticipated in the application. Can we wait and apply for an additional RRGL grant in 2 years? RRGL grants, there can only be one RRGL grant that is open at a time. So my suggestion is to avoid cost overruns. It is strongly recommended that the applicant work closely with an engineering firm. And if awarded a grant, how many years do we have to spend the funds, and can we get an extension of time? In the grant application, each applicant has to define the specific project implementation tasks and timelines. The grant contract is awarded with this timeline in mind. Extension requests can be made when the project will require more time to complete the approved tasks described in the grant agreement. If the extension is approved, the applicant will need to submit a revised scope, schedule, and budget to the DNRC. The DNRC Renewable Resource Grant and Loan Program is administered by Lindsay Volpe. She is the DNRC Program Manager, and she can be reached at 406-444-9766 or emailed at lmvolpe, VOLPE, @mt.gov. There is a website on the information below that an applicant can click on to find more information about the Renewable Resource Grant and Loan Program. Thank you.